Good evening and welcome to UK Politics Today. Our top story tonight: the UK government has announced a fresh package of sanctions against Russia, targeting banks, shipping companies, and businesses accused of supporting Moscow's economy during its ongoing war in Ukraine. The government says the measures are intended to increase pressure on Russia and reinforce the UK's continued support for Ukraine. The new sanctions are aimed at reducing Russia's ability to raise money through international trade and financial services. According to ministers, the package targets organizations linked to Russia's banking sector, commercial shipping, and industries that help fund the country's military operations. The government says the goal is to make it more difficult for Russia to access global markets while working alongside allies, including the United States and European partners. These measures form part of a wider international effort to increase economic pressure on the Kremlin. Supporters of the government's approach argue that sanctions are an important tool because they can weaken Russia's economy without direct military involvement. They say restricting access to finance, trade, and shipping increases the economic cost of continuing the war. However, some critics question how effective additional sanctions will be after several years of similar measures. Others have warned that tighter restrictions can also create challenges for some British businesses that trade internationally. The government maintains that the long-term benefits of supporting Ukraine and maintaining international pressure outweigh those concerns. The latest sanctions are expected to be debated in Parliament, where opposition parties are likely to examine both their effectiveness and their impact on the UK economy. Officials will also be watching closely to see how Russia responds and whether Britain's international partners introduce similar measures in the coming weeks. As the conflict in Ukraine continues, sanctions remain one of the UK government's principal foreign policy tools. We'll continue to follow developments and bring you the latest updates as they happen. Stay with us because next we'll look at Reform UK's latest proposals on immigration and the political reaction from Westminster. Our second story tonight focuses on immigration, where Reform UK has announced a new set of proposals aimed at tackling illegal working and strengthening border enforcement. The party says its plans would introduce tougher penalties for employers who hire people without the legal right to work in the United Kingdom. Reform UK says it wants to hold company directors personally responsible if their businesses are found to be knowingly employing illegal workers. The party is also proposing significantly larger financial penalties for employers who repeatedly break immigration rules. According to Reform UK, these measures would remove incentives for illegal employment while making it more difficult for organized criminal groups to exploit vulnerable workers. Party leaders argue that businesses must play a greater role in enforcing immigration law and protecting legal employment. Immigration has remained one of the most significant issues in British politics, with public debate focusing on border security, legal migration, asylum policy, and labor shortages. Supporters of Reform UK's proposals argue that tougher enforcement would strengthen confidence in the immigration system and reduce illegal working. However, critics say any new measures would need to balance effective enforcement with protections for legitimate businesses and workers. Some business groups have also warned that sectors already facing staff shortages could be affected by stricter employment rules. The debate reflects wider questions about how the UK should manage immigration while supporting economic growth. Although Reform UK's proposals are not government policy, they are expected to influence political debate in the months ahead. Labour ministers have continued to defend their own approach, saying they are increasing border enforcement while reforming the asylum system and targeting organized people-smuggling gangs. With immigration expected to remain a central issue in national politics, both the government and opposition parties are likely to face continued scrutiny over how they intend to reduce illegal migration while supporting the wider economy. We'll continue to follow developments as more details emerge. Coming up next, we'll look at the latest developments from Westminster and what they could mean for the government's agenda. Our third story tonight concerns criminal justice, as the government is reviewing whether people convicted of serious offenses linked to grooming gangs should continue to qualify for early release from prison. The issue has become a major political talking point, with ministers facing growing calls to tighten sentencing rules. Government sources have confirmed that ministers are examining existing prison release policies following public concern over how some serious offenders complete their sentences. The review is expected to consider whether those convicted of grooming gang offenses should be excluded from automatic or early release arrangements. The government says the review is intended to ensure that sentencing and release policies reflect the seriousness of these crimes while maintaining public confidence in the justice system. No final decisions have yet been announced, and any significant changes could require new legislation or amendments to existing rules. The issue has become increasingly prominent following renewed political debate about how the justice system deals with serious sexual offenses. Supporters of tougher sentencing argue that offenders convicted of crimes involving the exploitation of children should serve longer periods in custody before becoming eligible for release. Others note that changes to sentencing policy must be carefully considered to ensure they are legally robust, consistent across the justice system, and supported by evidence on public safety and rehabilitation. The discussion also highlights the wider pressures facing the prison system, including overcrowding and the balance between punishment, deterrence, and rehabilitation. The government is expected to provide further details once the review is complete. Opposition parties are likely to examine any proposals closely, while victims' groups, legal experts, and criminal justice organizations are expected to contribute to the debate. If ministers decide to change the rules, Parliament will have the opportunity to scrutinize the proposals before they become law. For now, the review remains ongoing and will continue to bring you the latest developments as more information becomes available. That's all for today's UK Politics Today. If you enjoyed this update, please like the video and subscribe for independent daily coverage of British politics. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.